Welcome to my page. We could be friends, we could be family, we could be cousins, we could be sisters, we could be whatever you choose for us to be.
I'm counting my blessings. I just can't keep it to myself. When I thought that he had done too much, oh, he just did it again.
Hi guys. Blessing is in physical therapy, so I have an hour to myself. We in the house, but she's in the living room doing physical therapy, and I get to have an hour to myself. Usually I'm like right behind the door so I can listen in and peek out to see what kind of work her physical therapist is doing with her, and I can mimic those exercises throughout the week. But I figured that I just do a little video. I'm on the sun porch, so I stop periodically and go check on them and come back. But I was saying, you have an hour to yourself. So I was like, I left them in limbo. Let me explain the rest of the story. So it was about I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and sent me for ultrasounds, and I was then diagnosed with PCOS. So, and like I said, is no cure for PCOS, there's no cure for endometriosis, so I'm still suffering with it. It's just now it's a name to what I'm dealing with, which was one step closer to whatever possible outcome there could be. And now it's years later, and I make an appointment. I'm looking for a new gynecologist, and the name of the doctor that wrote endometriosis down pops up, and she is now a gynecologist. Like, she's not working at the hospital. She have her own practice, her own medical practice office. So I quickly made an appointment with her. Of course, I wanted to see her because I wanted to let her know that you diagnosed me back when I was 19, and yeah, I want her. So I get my appointment with her, and I'm telling her she the one that originally diagnosed me without a surgery, because in order to be diagnosed with endometriosis, you have to have surgery. So if a doctor just telling you, oh, you have endometriosis, in order to be diagnosed with endometriosis, you have to have that procedure. So I told her she diagnosed me with it as first, and that it's clear I'm diagnosed with it. I had the procedure and I'm diagnosed with it, and I had stage 4. And she was asking me, did the doctor end up taking some out because they can like burn scar tissue? And she was like, what did the other doctor do? And I was telling her no. So happened she explained to me that she had endometriosis. She suffered with endometriosis her entire life. And this doctor at this point, she's about like in her late 40s. And she had just recently had her first child at 40 years old, because she had whatever procedure she had. And so it was good to know that not only does this doctor is very familiar with what endometriosis is, she knows firsthand the symptoms, the outcome, the suffering, the shame, the painfulness, everything that I deal with concerning endometriosis. She knows so exactly what I go through on a daily basis with endometriosis. So it was just kind of like I was talking to my good friend. When I went to my doctor's visit, it was like sometimes I was at a counseling session. I was with my home girl. We talked about everything. Everything surrounding endometriosis, and it was so good to have a person for the first time. Now I'm like 24, 23, and I'm talking to somebody that knows what endometriosis is, and she's my doctor. So she told me that basically she could put me on birth control that is called seasoning, and I will only have my womanly 4 times a year. Great. Sign me up. And I can get off of it anytime. And why not? Why didn't those last 2 doctors gave me that option? One was only saying let's do fertility, and at that time I wasn't trying to have kids. Like I like the idea at that time to be able to have kids, but not necessarily have kids. You get what I'm saying? I'm still young. I have a boyfriend. I'm enjoying life. We traveling. I'm not really with that. I just want to know that I can have kids, but not necessarily have kids. You know what I mean? So I'm like, no, I don't like. Every time I went to this doctor, all he talked about was, we could do infertility, knock 2 birds at one stone, because once you become pregnant, it will shrink the endometriosis, and once you have your baby, you will go through 9 months being pregnant and not having to deal with the symptoms of endometriosis, and then 6 months for 6 months after you have your baby, you will not have symptoms of it. So I'm like, sounds good, but then I have this little baby that I gotta take care of. Like, I don't think that's what I want to do right now. So Blessing is giving physical therapist a hard time. I will be back. So back. Blessing is just not feeling physical therapy today. But as I was saying, she put me on seasoning, birth control seasoning. So for years, that became my crutch. For years. And in between time, I was stopped. For years, I was on seasoning. That was my crutch. I would not get off of it. I dread those months that I had to have my menstrual, because it was just painful. And I slowly fell into depression with it. Like, I slowly fell in depression, and I was just dealing with it silently. And when people would talk to me about kids, I kind of like convinced myself, I believe, that I didn't want any children. I knew that I had endometriosis. I knew I was dealing with it. I knew that, like, I suffer with it. So fast forward, my husband, now we were married years. My husband expressed that he wanted children. So I was mentally preparing myself to get off the birth control and to really be off of it, so that we can really give it a real shot on, trying to conceive. I started this video at 3 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday, and it is now 2:06 a.m. And I said, before the night is out, the night is out. I said, before I jump in the shower and get myself together and get in the bed, let me finish this video. So it's night out. I'm back on the porch, and I'm just going to talk to you guys real quick. Just give y'all a brief ending of this segment of my story, of my life. And I'm exhausted, so I look like all day, because I feel like all day. Blessing finally went down at 12, which means I have to wait for her to go down in order for me to clean up my entire house before I shut everything down and go to sleep. So I think I was saying my husband about 5 years, well now 6 years. 6 years ago, he expressed to me that he wanted children. And because I was on seasoning at the time, in order to conceive, to even attempt to try to conceive, I first had to get off birth control. And that had been my crutch for years. That was the one thing that actually worked because I didn't have to worry about having my menstrual more than 4 times a year. So I knew that I had to mentally prepare myself to get off of it in order to even consider conceiving and having a baby. At this time, I'm older in my age, and I'm still not really 100% sure I want kids, but the thought of being a mom was exciting. But because I know that infertility, endometriosis, PCOS go hand in hand, I wasn't too excited about the thought of being a mom because I knew that there was a big possibility that it may not happen, not to mention my prior losses. So I got off birth control because my husband expressed to me he wanted to have kids. I got off of it. And month 1, month 2, month 2, month 3. By the time the 4th month came, I was like back to the little girl, 15-year-old, suffering with chronic cramps, and I'm talking about passing out, throwing up, not being able to get out of bed, having to get FMLA for work, can't go to work, can't barely do anything for myself, can't cook, and I fell in a deep depression. And I remembered one day I was in my spare bedroom and I was crying because when I am dealing with the chronic cramps, I can't even lay in the bed with my husband because it feels like when he roll over, when he get out of bed, even if he even breathing too heavy, it feel like he just like literally take the bed and shake it, and it makes it worse. So the first 2 days I would really have to go into the spare bedroom and lay down. Most of the time he would, but I started feeling bad, so I would just go in there. Even though he would come in and rub my stomach, try everything he could do to make things better, but he just didn't know that there was not... touching me was making it worse. But in his head, and I guess he wanted to make things better, but he couldn't fix it. I was in the bed, and I remember crying out to God because in my experience in my life, God has been the only person that can make things better. And God has only been the only person that I can cry out to, and he hears my cries. He knows what I need when I need it. And my faith is strong when it comes to what I know God is capable of doing. I was just telling someone, like, it makes no sense to pray about something if you don't believe that God has the power to change it, fix it, or whatever. And I believe God can fix everything. Why I was still suffering since I was 14 years old, I don't know. But what I know is that doctors told me that there was no cure. But I know that the God I serve holds all power in his hands. And I wasn't healed because he wasn't yet ready to heal me. But I knew that I didn't know how he was gonna do it, when he was gonna do it, but I knew that he was going to do it. I just didn't know how. And I remember crying in the bed that day, and I was in cramps. I was bent over, and my husband, his family was having a dinner party, and I didn't go because I was in pain, of course, and I tend to miss out on special events when it falls around the time of the month for me. Like, it shuts down everything. And I was crying. I was really crying to God. And I was like, Lord, why do I gotta go through this? Like, and I started praying. I started praying so hard. I started praying for my sins, my mother's sins, my grandmother's sins, my great grandparents' sins. Because you know, the Bible says that the sins of your mother can fall on the child. And I just started praying and asking God for forgiveness for my ancestors, and asking God to not allow me to suffer. And if it's my sins, please have mercy on me. You know, like, I was desperate, and I wanted God to know that I repent of my sins, and I'm asking for forgiveness for my ancestors. And I was tired, and so I've had enough. Basically, I was telling God, I had enough of this. I'm done. I'm done. Like, I'm done. And I was crying so bad, and I was so sincere in my prayer. I can remember this prayer today, and I was so sincere, and I cried, and I said, Lord, why do I have to suffer the way I do? None of my friends suffers like this. None of them. I don't know nobody else that suffers like this. Like, is it that he doesn't love me the way he loves everyone else? I was just like, I was at a low point, and all I could do was talk to God. And I drifted away and went to sleep while I was praying and crying. I remember crying, and I fell asleep while I was crying. And when I went to sleep, I it was like, it was, if now I'm looking at it, it was like a dream, but it felt like I was still up, and I went into another dimension, or I don't know, what would you call it? And I was laying on the bed, and I saw someone with all white, long white beard, came and lift my head up from off the pillow, and he sat at the edge of the bed, and he laid my head on top of his lap, and he was stroking my back, and he was talking to me. He said, let me talk to you for a minute. He's like, I didn't leave you or forsake you. I love you. It's not gonna be the same for you as it is for others, because I have something else for you. He said, I didn't forget you, and I hear your cries, and I hear your calls. I hear you calling me. What I want you to do is change your diet 360 degrees. And I woke up. When I woke up, I Googled, how do you change your diet 360 degrees? Veganism immediately popped up. And I started reading about it. Immediately when I saw that it says no meat, I was like, what? No meat? What's a meal without meat? Like, nah, that's not for me. Cut it out. That can't be a word from God telling me not to eat meat, because I eat meat. I love all types of meat, except I don't eat pork, but I love me some steak, fried chicken, like fish. Like, what do you mean no meat? Like, nah, that wasn't a word for me. That wasn't a word from God telling me no meat. So I went on about my business like I never heard it before. Next month came. I was suffering. It never changed. It never stopped. And I'm just like, oh God. Now I'm struggling and praying to God, like, Lord, please have mercy on me. Every month I'm praying to the ancestors. I'm praying to everybody. I'm praying to the angels, to heaven. asking everybody to help me. Lord, please help me, because that's what it does. It humbles you, like humbles you. And I'm crying to God, and I heard the Lord said, I told you what to do. But I'm gonna end it right here, because I want you to tune in for what actually happened. If I tell you the whole story, then what we going to talk about? Even though on this channel we're gonna cook, because Blessing is fully vegan, like and she has never had any processed foods. She has never had any formulas. She was on breast milk, and then after that I put her on hemp milk that I made from scratch, and all her foods is made organic by me. So we're gonna make some recipes on foods that Blessing and I eat. We're going to do some DIY projects, because I told you I have my own business. I make a lot of DIY projects. We're going to have story time. We're going to have tea time. We're going to have a whole lot of fun. But in order for us to do that, I have to keep you coming. Oh, yeah. And this is my business, Naturally Loving, LLC. But yeah, so I'm going to end it right here, and hope to see you again next time. Tune in with me. Until then, be bold, be brave, and most importantly, be blessed. Bye. Good night.